bisschen.
So, also wer Lust hat von den Zuschauern...
Cool. Let's get into the hard stats of the season.
So this season I started as a 340 runner and now 335, so I improved by 4.93 seconds over the course of the season. I averaged 5th place, which I think is pretty good considering high quality races, and I came 10th in one, so the average has been bumped up by some good results. And I raced in 6 different countries, which was really cool from like a experiential and like life point of view. So this season, it was a banger, pretty much. Like, that's all I can say, right? At the start of the season, I'd run 340. I've now run 335. I've improved by 4.93 seconds over 1500, which is great. It's like, I calculated about like a 2% improvement or something like that. And I'm now 1.9 seconds away, more further improvement to getting the Olympic qualifying time. So in terms of how my frame of reference has changed, it's gone from, how can I go from like being quite good to very good, and now it's like, how can I go from being very good to like great, you know, which is like, if you get an Olympic time, that's like fantastic in any event, right, in any sport. And it's less than 1% further improvement on the time. Obviously, as we've discussed previously, every percentage that you're trying to improve gets harder and harder to get, every 0.1%.
What do you think the difference between 340 to 335 is versus 335 to 330?
Yeah.
Because if you want to come 4th in a Diamond League now, you've got to be in 3.
You're right. So I think the way that I would look at this is 340 to 335, and then 335 down to whatever, 333, whatever it's going to be, has a lot of the similar attributes, and I think all the mental attributes that you need are the same. So things like needing confidence, needing momentum, needing focus throughout the whole year, needing kind of self-belief and the right level of kind of fear and respect in races. I think all of that is the same, because at each level of development, and even people that are watching this that have not even broke, say, 4 minutes for 1500, you will be experiencing the same thing as you get a second faster each time, is you have to feel a sense of belonging in that race. If you feel like you don't belong in that race and you don't grab it by the scruff of the neck, I don't think there's any athlete that will run to their full potential. So I think those things are the same, so it's good to recognise them now, and I can carry them on in my development. Where it's difficult is the physical attributes are such an unknown for me. I've never, you know, it's not something that you can, unless you've done this journey before, I think it's impossible to know what you specifically need to improve on. I think a lot of my 340 to 335, or at least 340 down a few seconds, was just a product of consistency, a product of being a bit stronger, a product of actually being so relatively new to the sport over the last few years that I was just going to have those kind of beginner natural gains. You know, it's my second season racing on the track. How much better was I at racing? Like, just being fitter, faster, stronger is why I've improved that much at once, I think. Where it's going to be difficult is now there is some element of consistency and just being generally fitter and faster that will help, but that's not going to get you another 5 seconds. That's where you've really got to look in depth at your training and be like, specifically, what are you weak at? And I don't even know that yet. That's what for me to work out and my coach to work out over the next few months. What am I specifically weak at compared to people that run those times? And what is it that I can specifically work on? And is it something that we can even identify? Or is it going to be next summer just being like, fuck it, season open, let's just see what I run and like take it from there, you know? So I think it's going to take a lot more detail and a lot more of a kind of meticulous approach to work out where the areas for improvement are. But similarly, I need to just keep doing what I'm doing, because that's the base and the framework of where sort of anyone can improve. So yeah, it's mad really, like what we've kind of done accidentally is set ourselves up for complete failure. Because either this is the greatest 2-part series in history and I go to the Olympics next year, or at least run the Olympic time, and then we've like hit the jackpot, like 2 back-to-back series, mega improvement, or we've improved so much and created such good stuff this year that next year can only look bad. But I'm not scared of that. That weirdly, you'd think you'd be scared of that, but actually I enjoy the fact that it's a bit of like incentive, and I think a lot of people watching it are the sort of people that don't watch these videos to hate. I don't really get any hatred comments, and maybe people just hate silently, but when I see a lot of other YouTube videos, there's people hating. I think the people that watch these videos, they want me to do it, and they actually think this guy could do the impossible. one thing that I can hand on heart say is I've always genuinely believed I can get better every single race, apart from once, which this season, after I raced in Italy, it was a Friday night I raced in Italy and I ran 3:36, like 0.0 something, or 3:36 low basically, and I had gone from 3:38 to 3:36 in one race. I'd run really well, I'd beaten, you know, Kieran Lum, who won the Canadian Championship, I'd beaten quite a few good people, and I had about, I think I had a week until the next race. Maybe a week until the next race. And for that week, I felt so anxious. The first time this season, every time I finished a race, I thought, whether it was good or bad, I know there's still more in there. Or I could straight away identify one or two things, that's what's going to boost me forward. And I think I surprised myself so much that I'd actually done it. And it was that moment of being like, I've actually run 3:36. Like, that's what I set out to do at the start of the season. That's what I put on my Instagram caption in March, like, goal is 3:36. I was like, do I even have the ability to go any faster? Shall I just be like, you've done it, like, you've done your goal, like, great. And for the first time, I was like cycling home from training, I was thinking like, I feel a bit on edge, I don't know why, or like I was a bit snappy with Alice at home, and I was like a bit in a bad mood, and like that's my like signs to myself to be like, something isn't quite right mentally. And then I sat with Alice and I had a conversation, I was just like, I think I'm feeling a bit like scared that I can't go much faster or whatever. And like I can't remember the specifics of the conversation, but we just had like a little 15-minute conversation, and it just gave me such like clarity, and just like speaking to someone about it and being like, just go for it, like it doesn't matter, you've done great, like just keep doing what you're doing, the reason you've improved every race, and giving me a sense of like, no, you do belong in the race, like you can do well. I think that's the thing that then pushed me to go and achieve more. So my key thing for next year is not going into things thinking, oh, you need to improve this much, or you better do this, or this is a goal time you have. I just want to keep enjoying every single race, go to the new experiences, meet new people. Like so many times this season I've like, sounds so cliche, but like not physically pinched myself, but I've thought to myself like, this is sick. Like, I'm here on a Thursday when most people are working, doing whatever. I'm in Italy at this hotel that's been paid for, and my job is just to run for 3.5 minutes tomorrow night. And all these people that I've seen on TV or on Instagram or on FlowTrack or whatever are all here. Like, this is sick. Like, I'm actually becoming one of them, you know? And I do not take that for granted at all. So I want next year just to have the same enthusiasm, the same almost naivety towards every race, rather than going to everyone trembling, thinking, oh shit, if I don't improve, like, I'm going to let people down, or I need to get 3:33 because that's the Olympic time. Like, I just want to have a good time, keep it rolling, not get too caught up on things, and just, you know, see what can happen. I think that's such a, like, refreshing attitude to have as an athlete, or if there is athletes that have that attitude, they should say it more in interviews, because often I think people get quite pent up and sort of like, yeah, my goal's just for the end of the season, man, I'm going to be ready for this time and I'm going to do this. It's like, tell us how you're feeling. You know, I love hearing how athletes are feeling. Were they shitting themselves? Were they excited? Did they care about it? You know, were they throwing up last night? You know, like, I want to hear all that sort of stuff. A question that a lot of people have is, how is it possible to basically do what we've done, which is to travel around Europe, go to different races, stay in different places, get flights here, trains here, and be able to live and work while also trying to be a professional athlete. And obviously, as you can see, I'm supported by SOAR. This whole series has been sponsored by SOAR, but that is kind of a low-level contract to help a developing athlete. It's not a big salary here, do what you want, agents sort this out, agents sort that out. So I think it's really interesting to break down the finances of how we've made it possible to be able to do it, where I've pulled all this random bits of income from, because I'm basically trying to not use the money that I get from my day job to pay my rent, to buy my Lidl shop, you know, whatever. I don't know why I said Lidl. I literally shop at Aldi as well. Like, I got the colours so mixed up in my head then. Trips, this is the travel, the accommodation, everything that we spent basically for myself and Charlie to get around to all these races. A few caveats on trips are, Charlie didn't come to everything, so for example, obviously I didn't have to pay for two of us to go over to Philadelphia to race in Penn Relays, which was in episode 2, but also a lot of accommodation was provided by races and things like that, which I'll get into when we cover the costs. So the grand total on the screen now, I don't know where it'll be around me, was £3,002 and 95p.
5p, but you saved yourself 90p there.
Alright, minus 90p off that then. Next big element for any runner is the cost of training equipment, kit, all that sort of stuff. SOAR Running provide me with all of my apparel, so that's great. I've not had to buy any racing or training kit, which is fantastic. But SOAR don't make shoes, spikes, things like that, and I have some ad hoc support occasionally from people when a new shoe is releasing. They might send me one, but I've had to buy my new spikes to race in, training shoes. So that amount came to a grand total of £447.85p. And I can't actually remember what that was. It was definitely 2 pairs of Dragonflies, probably a couple of pairs of racing shoes. I'm not 100% sure, but that's how much it was. in order to do this, I've gone through all my bank statements and basically calculated like what we spent, what we didn't spend, and it's inevitable that there will have been some extra spend that we just haven't calculated. So for example, in Karlsruhe, I think it was Karlsruhe, the first race of the season, me and Charlie went out in Germany, we went to this bar afterwards. And we ordered some drinks, and then they were like, we don't take card. So we had to go to the cash machine, get some euros out, pay for the drinks, that sort of stuff. So I just have this 20 euro note in my wallet, like, is not accounted for. So I'm going to add an extra £100 just for all these little miscellaneous random bits that I couldn't find. So that means that on the trip as a whole, in terms of just outgoing spend, so if we didn't get any support, it would have cost a total of £3,550 and 90p, which I think is pretty good to say. We went to kind of 6 different countries, did 11 or 12 different races. It's a lot of money though. That's like 6 months of rent for some people. Okay, so how we made this possible was pooling basically all little bits of income from wherever I could. The first main thing is the video sponsor. So SOAR Running sponsored the video. I basically pitched Rob, great guy in marketing at SOAR. Maybe the main guy at SOAR, I don't know. If Tim SOAR, if you even know we're making this, shout out to you. But Rob, I know you watch this, so thanks a lot. So SOAR kindly gave some financial support for the series, which is awesome. And then also, as a supported athlete from SOAR, I have an annual allowance that I can kind of use to help with the costs of training, racing, gym, all that sort of stuff. So the annual kind of money that we'll call coming from sponsors that came in was £1,505 and 99p. This is all very specific. You can tell I've actually done this accurately. The second big thing is the support from the races. So this is where it gets a little bit interesting for an athlete like me. I don't have an agent as such to be able to go out and negotiate the best deals, make sure I'm getting everything covered for me. That's not something I've had. And secondly, I've only been a 335 1500 meter runner for the last month. I've not actually done a race where I've had that caliber. So it's easy to look back in hindsight and think, oh, I should be getting way more stuff. I should be getting into races, getting flights paid for, all of this as a 335 runner, which hopefully next season I will enjoy the benefits of. But I was a 340 runner for most of the year, or then a 339, 338. I've not had the luxury to be able to say, oh, I'm top 100 in the world, that kind of thing. So a lot of the stuff I had to pay for myself. So contributions in cash from races, so that's like refunding your flights, stuff like that, was £126 and 80p. But the main thing that came from races is the free accommodation. So I think for more races than not, at least for myself, sometimes we had to pay for Charlie's. My accommodation as the athlete was covered, and within that often we had the food. So like Luxembourg, the hospitality was awesome. We both got the hotel covered. If Luke, the race director, is watching this, thank you so much. The food was covered for all of the athletes there in a lovely hotel. That's a cost you don't have to worry about. So that £3,000 figure that we mentioned before would be crazy if you had to factor in all of these extra things. So the money from pacing and prize money has been totally reinvested back into the series. So that totals £755, and that's made up of a second place finish at Tooting-Bec, which was some good prize money. I did some pacing at Karlsruhe in Germany, which you will have seen in the video, which was, I think, about £300, 300 euros, something like that. And then topped up with some pacing at Watford that I did recently. So I can't remember the exact breakdown of it, but £755 is pacing and prize money, so that's really helped go back into the budget. And then the final 2 immediate streams of income have been a really generous grant from something called the Chris Smith Memorial Fund, which I got a £250 grant for that I just applied for. All athletes can apply for it. I think they've changed the structure now of how it actually works, but basically if you're working on a project to do with bettering your athletics, like a training camp, or for me it was being able to race abroad, they can give you up to £500. They kindly donated £250, so shout out to the Chris Smith Memorial Fund. That's really, well, as you can see, it really helps a lot. And then the final thing was the YouTube ad revenue, which this channel was brand new when me and Charlie started it, 0 subscribers. I think as of recording, we're at about 2,800. The rules, that I didn't know this was a thing, but the rules of YouTube are you can't just put ads on your videos straight away. You have to have 4,000 watch hours, I think, and you have to have 1,000 subscribers. So it wasn't until halfway through the season that we actually obviously hit that mark. So as of, not as of recording, but as of when I wrote the notes, which was maybe like a week ago, the revenue we'd made was a massive £58 and 8p. Or £58 and 1p, even more depressing. So that means that the total money that we got in, or to cover the cost, was £2,844. That will mean that the total money we spent was £706 and 66p. So that's negative spend, which I think is great.
All right, Carter, you got 25.87. Not for long. I make bad financial decisions.
To be honest, I'm pretty proud of how we've managed the budget. Like, I very much didn't think about the budget. I was just like, look, where can I gain sources of income from? And how can I kind of minimize what I'm spending out? So like making some compromises like pacing and things like that. But really, I didn't want to compromise on the quality of the videos. And in hindsight, if I'd known I was going to run 3:35 and kind of have some prestige and the series was going to do well, would I have put my hand in my pocket and thought, oh, shall we just pay £600 for Charlie to get a flight out to Philadelphia and make that video? Do I wish I had that Penn Relays video? Kind of, but then at the time you're thinking, do you want to blow a half or a quarter or whatever of the budget just on one video? So it swings and roundabouts really. But yeah, £700, which is, what's that? What does that get you? An all-inclusive week in Turkey, maybe? Something like that? I think this has been way more of a laugh than that. So yeah, no, decent.
Obviously, you're £700 down.
Yeah.
But obviously, you've got to think, like, you're not looking at that as I'm out of pocket. You're looking at it as an investment.
Well, you know what they say, Charlie. Scared money don't make money. That's what they say. All right. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, essentially, it's investment in myself, I think. So the first thing is, if I wasn't filming this and I wasn't making any content out of it, it was just me as an athlete. There's limited amount of races in the UK that I was going to get to the level that I wanted to, where you can run a 3:38, 3:36, 3:35 in good weather conditions, right? So I needed to go abroad anyway. So that would have been £200 at a time. Unfortunately, we have to go to Belgium Friday to Monday to do a race. I don't know why I chose Belgium, we didn't even race there. You know, you have to go to Germany for 3 days to race, when you could, in theory, just go to Manchester or Watford and do a race. But the weather's not guaranteed, the fields are not guaranteed. So it's an investment in me athletically to access the best opportunities, which is great. And also, so by me investing to race in good places, I get a better time, which opens me up to more brand exposure and opportunities where I can hopefully recoup some of that money. So for example, if a company, if you're watching, it'd be great, comes along and says, Callum, we heard you spend this amount on your training shoes, the least we can do for the 6th best ranked runner in the UK for 1500 is sort you out with some spikes for next season. That's already, in theory, £120, £140 that I've saved. Don't get me wrong, you have to have a certain, you know, I'm lucky that I've got a job and work freelance and have enough of an income to be able to front the cost myself, so it's not too much of an issue. I wouldn't recommend doing it if you're choosing between, you know, whether you're going to pay your rent or go and race in Spain or whatever. Obviously, like, make a choice. But yeah, I think that's why it's a decent investment, hopefully.
Would you think you could have the same outcome in terms of success of your running if you'd looked at your season from a monetary perspective?
If you want to be the best athlete you can, you have to put athletics first, I think, and that's taking everything into consideration: your personal and family relationships, your financial situation, your schedule and social life. Like, if you want to really push it and be like, how can I maximize my ability, I think you have to try and put athletics at the forefront of it. So for me, that was a worthy investment. In the 2 or 3 months that led us to tooting, but in that gap, I'd gained enough confidence, I'd beaten enough other good people, I've been around those sort of people that I felt like I belonged a little bit more, and that's why I've made the moves I have in the race, to kind of give people respect, but also think, I'll have a go at beating you here, and I think that's what's pushed me on to results. So again, hindsight's 2020. If I'd not run any faster, I'd probably be saying, what an idiot, wasted all that cash, you know, I didn't even get anything good out of it. But from an experience point of view and an athletic point of view, awesome. So the first thing I've learned is that nerves will always exist. I had in my head for some reason that as you get better you feel less nerves, but that's just not true. Every single race, no matter what position I've been in, whether I'm against a good field, a bad field, faster or not, nerves still exist. And how I've come to realise is that you can use it to your advantage how you handle nerves. So if you become good at processing how to feel on race day, it's an advantage over other people that are going to let it affect their performance. The second thing is that excitement and positivity really fuels me in training and racing. So I've made a concerted effort to make sure that I'm being social, make sure I'm training with other people, make sure I'm still going on pub trips after training, like being around people, talking about athletics, making social media posts about my training or my racing has like filled me with confidence and optimism and excitement to keep me motivated throughout the season. And then the third thing, which is a bit of a deeper or more abstract one, is like being open and having conversations with people has like helped me get a lot of clarity and like calmness over my own performances. So when I have felt a little bit anxious about a performance or I'm a bit nervous, like having conversations with my girlfriend at home and just saying like, can I just rant at you for 5 minutes about this, or like, am I being an idiot thinking about this, and actually not just keeping it to myself has really helped. So from a physical point of view, the main takeaways from the season primarily have been centered around my performances before the season. So a good winter has been the sort of first main thing. prioritising good strength work, good consistency with volume, and also not letting too many short-term goals get in the way. So thinking about the summer and the long term rather than chasing a new goal every 2 weeks or every month wanting to get a new PB. I've also realised that I respond really well to maintaining my volume and my intensity. So I've not been tapering in for every race. I've kept things at a pretty modest level throughout the whole season, and I found that's helped really build my confidence, having a good couple of sessions between races or doing a good session on a Tuesday before a Saturday race rather than being scared of having to feel fresh and taper. So that's definitely something I'm going to keep going with. And the third main takeaway, which is a bit of a sort of wishy-washy term that everyone uses, but it's the importance of the S&C, the physio, the regular sports massage for me. This is something that I'd never previously had or been sort of on it with, but I've been religious with doing my strength work and my rehab exercises. I've made the commitment to pay and see physios as and when I need to make sure that any niggles I have don't sort of progress and get worse. So definitely staying on top of those sort of extra accessory bits has been crucial in my performances on the track. Cool, the final thing I just wanted to say is like just some thank yous for the support on the series, which has been awesome. Like, first of all, everyone that's watching and is engaged, like, it's motivated me to run better, but also as you've seen with like the financial commitment and everything that we've made, like the tangible support is super important to us. So massive thanks to everyone who's sent messages, done things, get involved, share a story, share it with a friend. Like, that's just class. Another thank you to SOAR Running, who are the sponsors of the series, but it's more than just a sponsorship for me. There's a lot of people that have a training series or whatever sponsored by SOAR or another brand or whatever it is, but like SOAR have been my partners since I moved back from America, like at the start of last summer, and basically messaged Rob and said, hey, like, no one will throw me a bone, I'm kind of alright, I want to be really good, can you help me out a little bit with little things I need? And they've been so supportive from the start of that. So obviously they're a natural partner for this video series, and we will work with different brands, but like, I've signed with SOAR for another year as an athlete individually, so like, yeah, big shout out to them. It's invaluable support. And then finally, Charlie's here, so a bit awkward, but massive thanks to Charlie for making the videos. I always link like edited and video, or video edit by whatever in the description, but like Charlie's way more than just like pressing record on the camera and then editing the stuff together. He like comes up with loads of ideas, knows more about running than most people do from a performance point of view, and also like running history, running culture, stuff like that. So I think the quality of the videos has been way more impressive than necessarily the performances have justified. But I think if we can continue to, you know, develop the running and keep the content at high quality, then I can see the channel growing to a point that's way better than what other people are doing, because it's not me with a camera saying, hey guys, I'm doing blah blah blah. It's a very unique take on stuff. So shout out to Charlie, and you can follow his Instagram, which he won't want to insert the self-plug, but it's going to go there.
It's going across the whole screen.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, and then, oh, it's about to rain. Perfect timing. Final thing is, if you've got any ideas for the series, like people are saying Closing the Gap 2, do this, do that, we're definitely going to do loads of cool things next year, similar style, like hopefully bigger, more budget, more production, more guests, more travel, you know. We'll probably get a helicopter, mate, if the channel takes off. We won't need a drone. But yeah, if you've got any ideas, things you want to see, if you work for a brand and you think actually would be really good exposure for this, anything in the world, let us know, and yeah, we'll make it happen, hopefully. Cheers.